Hello everyone and welcome back. The monthly animation is in and you can see I also reworked the last hairstyle because I absolutely wasn't happy with how the tail and the back looked, so I redid it. I had a first attempt which you can see right there. I still wasn't happy with it, so I thought up a new method of making hair. I'm using a straight tube here. You can see that, and I'm also using a new tool which you will see in a few seconds. It's a deformer tool, so it's right there. And what this tool specifically does is it lets me twist the current form that I'm working on, the current mesh that I'm working on. You can see that this is twisted right here. And the next step in this is to actually, after the finished twist, the next step is to extrude all the extra strands that I want to have. You can see this in the next few seconds, basically. And what I'm doing is I am grabbing, or I will grab the a single face of this. And what I'm doing with this is I'm going to extrude the face. In this case, I decided to extrude 3 faces per height level of this, so basically per area. You can see I'm grabbing a single face. Sadly, you can't extrude single points. You can only extrude faces, or you could extrude points with the added work of doing the line work manually, but in this case I just wanted to extrude this, and then this is going to be extruded horizontally, my bad, horizontally. Tiny bit of adjustment here on the actual shape. You can see I'm using the object coordinates here because it is a bit simpler to work with, and I can actually see what I'm doing. Yeah. And that's basically more or less the whole thing. So the next part is the full extrusion of the next few levels, but I wanted to show this one time in normal time. Yeah, and we're back to the normal speed. So yeah, I redid this because I wasn't happy with it. I'm going to try to actually, when I say I have to rework this, try to rework it on a close timed basis, so that I don't forget about it, because I apparently tend to, which I want to stop. Yeah. About the animation itself, there is no animation content here other than the finished animation because it was rather boring and frustrating to work on. I've used the horse again. As you can see, I'm basically, what I did is I grabbed the images that I had before from the horse, or from the first animation that I made. I grabbed the few key nodes that were workable, and I will have them in the video so you can actually see them. And then I modeled the horse after them. And the whole animation is split into 2. First is the horse walking with the figure of the woman just on top of the horse, and then she is getting off the horse and walking, or not walking, but turning next to the horse. Interesting side note here, or what I did is I parented the figure, the Genesis 2 figure, under the horse, so that in the first time she's basically moved with the horse, because the horse is just walking more or less. It's walking on the it's not moving. It's just a walking animation, but it's not moving from the spot it is. So the coordinates of the horse don't actually change, at least not that much. And yeah, then I basically left the character parented to the horse, but I just focused on the sit-up animation and just animated the horse a bit in the background, but not very much. Speaking of animation, I will definitely, or I will try to do an animation next month. Next month might be a little bit less content because, yeah, Christmas is coming up. Family is, or I will be with my family, so I won't have, or I will basically more or less have a week less than usual because I have a full week with something else. The week between Christmas and New Year, so there might not be content around that part. But I will try to do the monthly animation, and as a roundabout way for next year, next year I will try to focus on different stuff. For example, next year I want to try to focus on the human base model. The monthly animation is something interesting, but it also takes a lot of time to do the monthly animation, and it is not that much of, so I will occasionally do animations, but not a monthly animation anymore, I think, at least not next year. I will keep the monthly live streams, but I will not do the animations as frequently as I did. But there will still be some whenever I feel feel inclined to do one for reasons. I will focus on the human model, and once I've done that I will see about more playing around with game engines, but that's still in the future, so it's still something that I'm looking towards later on. Yeah. While I'm doing the UV mapping in the background, we are looking at the animation. So this is what I said. I made an image. I made a render of the first, or the 0th frame of the first horse animation. Then I translated this to the roundabout to the horse in the current animation. Second animation like 10 frames later, so about 1/3 of the 1/3 of a second. So it's 30 frames per second. Again, the whole animation is around 120 frames, so 4 seconds long. Yeah. Incidentally, you can see that the model is already quite crumbled at some points. One thing I learned is, if you want to reset your full animation, if you are not happy with what happened, you reduce the timeline to 1 single frame, then you save your scene. In my case, I decided to close down Death Studio, reopen the scene, and if you then go back to 120 or 150 or whatever frames, then everything is so all the keyframes are then gone, because it saved it with no keyframes, and it keeps it that way. In the last one, you could also see how the horses are broken. You can also see it here on one of the hoofs. The hoof is more or less broken, more or less not as it should be, not intact. And this is also something I tried to work on with this animation. Also, I gave it a horn, so it's a unicorn, but that is kind of besides the point. Yeah. Going back to the actual hair model, because this is what we're currently seeing. After I did all the extrusions for the strands, I basically grabbed them and you just moved them, just tilted them 90 degrees. Sometimes I had to do this 2 times, and then I put them closer to the actual strand of hair that I'm working on. The idea is that, as you might have seen behind the horses, or in between the horses, that this gives me a way easier method to actually do a quality or better made UV map. So I developed this method, I thought of this method to have an easier time with the UV mapping, and I was absolutely right. If you make your own UV maps, or in the case of your UV maps, this is way easier. You could also just use the pre-made UV map for tubes. Probably also work, but in this case I just did my own, and it works quite well. The UV maps, the cuts are like around the spikes that come out around the strands, and then again on the length of the strands and one length of the actual hair. So yeah, this worked quite well. Quite happy with how it turned out. And yeah, in the end I decided I'm going to fit this all together so it actually turns into one strand. I thought about doing multiple, but that would have also meant animating multiple or rigging multiple strands of hair, which absolutely possible, not that hard, but I just thought of the time and I decided to do one strand here. Yeah. Currently cross-checking if everything fits with Genesis to female, and yeah, the base is just a simple fit into the same hair band that I used before, and the hairband actually in this case got its own bone in the final bone structure, which I also am not showing this video. Anyway, that's it for the whole video. I have the animation at the very end if you want to rewatch it. It's also at the beginning. But yeah, I hope this helped you, and I hope to see you guys around in the near future. Thanks for watching, and yeah, have a nice day.